Hello and welcome back to All Things Trentside. I hope you're all well and are staying safe at this moment in time. And if you're new to the channel, this is a new podcast that's dedicated to all things Nottingham Forest, and you can see our previous 4 episodes on our channel. So now this is episode 5. So I don't feel like episode 5, it feels like a lot less, especially how much I've been uploading, but here we are, episode 5, and this one is going to be focusing around the team of the decade. If you follow us on Twitter or Instagram, you would have seen the poll I did up to decide your votes for team of the decade. So I'm going to compare that against the one I've put up, and hopefully, there's a few different opinions of this. Hopefully you understand my opinion, and I understand some of your opinions. So be a good way to just take your mind off things that's going on at the minute, because in regards to football, everything's up in the air. We'll come to the team of the decade at the minute. But yeah, a bit of news since we last spoke. So on Monday, the 25th, Forest went back to training for the first time since the pandemic. So they're allowed now to resume training, get their fitness back up, and hopefully, in the next coming weeks, we might have a date, if not already started by then. We'll have a date when it's meant to come back. Of course, we've seen the Premier League that's coming back on the 17th of July, all being well. The government's come out and said, sport can return from which I think is the 1st of June tomorrow when I'm recording this. So all football and normal sports can resume to a degree. I don't know all the details. I just read something about the 1st of June in sport. But there's obviously been a few things about the EFL meant to be meeting and deciding what's going on. It's still all up in the air at the minute, but it's just nice to see Forest back in training. So of course we know if this restart does happen, then we're ready to go. It's good to see everyone in high spirits as well. Where everyone's haircuts, the lockdown haircuts, me included. I think we're all sitting here either looking like Hagrid or looking like Phil Mitchell. There's no in between at the minute, unless Backstreet Barber. But all Forest players, really, mops on their head. No one's gone for the Phil Mitchell look apart from Ben Watson, but I think he was already there anyway. But yeah, hopefully, I think I'm going to explore in my next video. I'm not too sure on this yet, but I'm going to explore the different options that could happen with the EFL. Of course, that's if they don't release a statement by then. I manage to get to film before they do. If they do not say what's going to happen with the season, and exploring all the different options, all the theories that have been put forward, and see which one really is the best. But we'll see in due course. A bit of sad news to bring you though. Of course, if you an avid social media follower, you'll see that Joe Lolly is now off Twitter. Bit of a shame. I thought he was very good entertainment on Twitter. He wasn't like your normal footballer who abided by the rules. He wasn't afraid to voice his opinion and tweet some funny stuff. But for unbeknown reason, he's now not on Twitter at the minute. Whether or not he's taking a sabbatical and he'll come back remains to be seen. But I'm gonna have to get used to not seeing Joe Lolly on Twitter for a bit. Also, Forest celebrated their European Cup wins last week. So obviously, when filming this, it's good to see a bit of history of the club. Obviously, I wasn't a part of it. It's been nice to be a part of it, but it's nice to see us celebrating still. But kind of lifting a bit of the spirits, and it's all doom and gloom. And hopefully, when football does return, if it does or when it does, the players can make their own bit of history. And we can be part of that. But that's all I've got really to say on the matters at the minute. In regards to Forest, normally, really, not really a normal standings really in anything. Normally, the season would have been finished now, and I'd have probably been waffling on about. I waffle anyway, but something more than probably. I won't be talking about training. I'll be talking about pre-season and contracts and transfer rumours. But it was technically still in the last knockings of the season, really. It's all still up in the air, and I'm not going to digress into it too much. Like I say, hopefully in a video soon. I can get it out, and you can listen to my views and stuff like that, and I'll go into more detail. But yeah, does Forest have come back to training? All well and good. Hopefully they're all fit now again, and it all can get up to that fitness we've seen in the Bundesliga, that with the 5 subs, because everyone's not used to this break midway through March and April. Samba So's back, so without we missed him, of course, in the few games leading up to the pandemic. But yeah, they're back in training. All's well at the minute. With the Premier League coming back, there is belief that the Championship will come back. Hopefully, we'll see Forest on the pitch soon, behind closed doors, of course, which is a shame. But what can you do? But yeah, I'm going to move on. I'm talking about stuff that people already know, and of course, no point getting my views out there when, in a short period of time, I don't want this video to be an hour long. I want to try and maintain it to how long they normally are. And like I say, I will try and get one out. So I'm going to stop saying that now, but we will move on and we'll go from here. So yeah, teams of the decade, kind of late to the party here. I think most was put together the back end of 2019 / the start of 2020. But of course, this channel's been existent since the start of April, so I missed all the jumping on the bandwagon with that sort of stuff. But now is a perfect time to talk about. There's no football to analyse with Forest. Even if the season was here, I would have been done. So I'd have needed something to fill the gap until pre-season came back. So what better time to do it? So I asked you to vote on Twitter. If you don't follow us on Twitter or Instagram, I'll put the links in the description. Give us a follow. I'd really appreciate it. But yeah, I put a poll up. 4 people in the position where I thought the four best players Forest had in that position over the decade. You all voted. We've got the team of the decade. I'm going to go over your picks at the same time with mine, and hopefully, comparing the teams, there is a lot of similarities, but there is a few differences as well. So I'm going to explain my viewings for picking that player and not the other one, because there was a few that it was between the two, but I picked one player and you lot voted for another. But let's get into it. So for this, I'm going to go probably for either a 4-4-2 or a 4-1-3-2. That's where I'm going to set it up. Flat back 4, a right and left midfield, and then you either want to look at it 2 centre mids or a defensive midfielder and attacking midfielder, whichever way you want to look at it, really. But yeah, so without further ado, let's get into it. So I'm going to start off in goal, and you all voted for Bryce Samba as your Forest goalkeeper of the decade, and I'm going to have to disagree with you lot on that one. I've put Lee Camp in mine. I think it's just because I really enjoyed having Lee Camp at Forest. For that 09-10, 10-11 season, the playoff journey, he was, especially the 10-11 season, he was the best goalkeeper in the league. I'm not saying Samba's not now, but he continued that form over. There was cries of England's number 1, which you got a lot of recognition for. There was obviously, he didn't go unnoticed. He eventually obviously declared for Northern Ireland in the end, but I think it was just a bit of tongue in cheek as well, saying England's number 1. But he could have done. He was playing terrific, and I believe if we'd have been in the Premiership at that point and he'd played like that, he might have got a call up. But just for them 2 seasons, I'm putting him in. I think he was consistent. He was captain when a few of the players, I think when Paul McKenna wasn't available at the time, it would have been. So he just commanded the box well. He didn't play out from the back in them days as well. It was more just straight up from the back, kick it forward. Not saying I don't like Bryce. Probably my favourite keeper since Camp left. But I think just because his amount of time he's been there, and he has got a mistake in him. Off the top of my head now, I can't think of many Lee Camp errors in them 2 seasons. I remember the season after he threw John Stead over and the penalty and the 6-pointer against Bristol City, which didn't go down too well. But other than that, he was pretty solid for us. I'm not saying Samba isn't, but there was a Millwall game, and home and away, I would even say. There was a few goals you think, could he have saved that? I mean, I feel that's because it's fresh in the memory, but I think if Bryce had been there for the same amount of time as Camp had, then Samble would have been my top choice. But I think just because the period he's been there for the 6-7 months, he's not quite done enough for me. But it was a close call, but I think Camp just shades it for me. And then that comes on to the same process I had for the right back position. So I picked Chris Gunter for my team, but Matty Cash won the votes for you lot. And I think how Cash has played has been phenomenal. Again, it's the debate of him and Ayling, who's the better player, but I think because Cash was not a right back at the start of the season, people were saying he can't play there, and he's kicked on how he has. They can't say he's not the best right back in the league, sorry. But again, because he's only played there for 6 months, and Gunter played there consistently for, I think he was with us for 3 seasons, that's why I've picked Chris Gunter. And as well, because Gunter's a natural right back. I mean, that probably makes Cash's, contributions and performance even more impressive because he's not normally playing there. But Gunter was, for me, Mr. Consistent up there with Chris Cohen. He never really chucked in a bad performance for Forest. Cash has had a few off games. I mean, what player doesn't? But again, I don't know if I'm picking these because it's not fresh that I'm thinking, Cash had this bad game. I can't remember Gunter. But off the top of my head, I can't really remember Gunter playing really bad. And I think we didn't replace him as well, Gunter, for a long time. Until Cash, actually, ironically. I think Lehigh did an okay job, but he wasn't near on Gunter's level. But I think Cash, again, give it another season, then my team of the decade would change again. But I just think just because how long Cash has played there, and potentially, obviously, transfer rumours, and, we could even say to him, like, we've got a right back in now. Carl Jensen, for example, starts to perform well. We could put Cash further forward. So, just because he's not guaranteed to play there, I think Gunter will, because he's a right back. And how he performed in that team, he's up there for me. And I think that's why he's just shaded it over Cash. So on to the 2 centre-backs. So for the first, this one of the first agreements we had in this team, and that was Wes Morgan. I mean, what can you say about Wes, really, Great servant of the club legend. I mean, he did join Leicester, but depending on what side of the fence you sit on about Leicester and the Forest rivalry, I think it's one of them for me. I don't mind Leicester, but when we're playing them, you don't like them. They're irrelevant. Derby for me, Derby can win on a normal Saturday. I don't like it. Derby, we play Derby. That's it. It's be all and end all. If we lose, I'm in a mood for ages. Leicester, if they win on Saturday, it doesn't matter. It doesn't care. I don't care. Sorry, because they're not as important. They think we're important, but we don't think they're important because we've got Derby. So when he left, it was to help the club out as well because he was in financial trouble as well. But he was just such a big lad, Wes, wasn't he? Powerful, strong, and he had a good shot in him. I think the Notts County goal sticks out for a lot of reasons, but also I think the season we lost to Blackpool in the playoffs, he scored a 25 yarder against Crystal Palace. So he had a good strike on him, and what he's gone on to do since as well, lift the Premier League, boy from Nottingham, and the Meadows as well, not really known for to be the best area in Nottingham. No disrespect if you're listening from the Meadows. It's what you read is propaganda. But no, in all seriousness, it was lovely to see that, But obviously, if he'd have gone to Derby, it's kind of like Forest fans would have hated it, How dare he do this to us? I think that they might have done it at the time with him going to Leicester, but it wasn't as big of a betrayal, and he was doing it for the right reasons. But yeah, he was solid, It was always that them 2 playoff campaigns, he was always the starter. It was never, chopping and changing between Kelvin Wilson and Luke Chambers. It was always one of them 2. And Wes Morgan, kind of like this season, it's like it was either between Dawson and Figueiredo, but Worrell was always there. And talking of Worrell, that brings me on to the next centre-back, and this is again where there's a difference of opinion. You lot picked Joe Worrell to be your partner for Wes Morgan at the back, and I went for Luke Chambers. I think I went for Luke Chambers, a bit of bias, but again, I say with Worrell, he's not really... He was a good player for us before he went to Rangers on loan, but the Rangers loan matured him, and this season he's been, immense. I think he needed that loan move to, kick on the career, because it was a bit stagnant at Forest, it wasn't really going nowhere. He was still a good player, but people wasn't picking him. Obviously now, he went on that loan spell. Obviously, it's different. It's an opinion. Like, if Karanka had stayed, would he still be at the club? Lemuch obviously saw something. I don't know, but for me, I just think, again, he's not really been a standout performer until this season. And I think I'm a bit biased because, moving on quickly to Luke Chambers, I love Luke Chambers in that 09-10, 10-11 seasons before he left. So, I remember I was going to re-sign him a few years ago on deadline day, but it didn't happen. I was gutted. So I was a bit stuck on the centre backs because I don't think we've had like a proper... We've had centre backs apart from Wes Morgan. We've not had a consistent centre back for seasons. So we've either had a few good loans and never got them permanently, or we've had them and they've not been as good. So that one I can sit on the fence for, but just for the sheer being a bit biased here, I did pick Luke Chambers. I did think he was a good centre back for us as well. I think it was the 10-11 season when he did he win Player of the Season? I think he did, but he scored loads of goals as well, which at the time was, for a centre back was pretty decent. So that's why I've picked Luke Chambers. Going on to a left back now, a player that we agreed on was Chris Cohen. I've cheated kind of a little bit here with Chris Cohen, but Chris Cohen needed to go in that team. He was Mr. Consistent, a Forest legend. He always gave 110%, but luckily he did play left back, so I could put him in there. We've had some good left backs, but again, only on loan. Ribeiro has done all right, but not on Chris Cohen's level. To come back from 3 separate long-term injuries and still want to play for the club, not leave the club either. I mean, not know if you had offers or not, but sometimes, if you're offered a new deal, you've been there for long enough, you're like, actually, now I'm going to try something new. But he stayed. I think, we stayed loyal to him through the injuries. He stayed loyal to us. And just for the sheer amount of passion he had. And he did do well at left back as well when we had, after Nicky Shorey left and Ryan Bertrand left on loan. Because they were of a few more picks, but I don't think truly with Ribeiro we might have done now. But again, for a while, we've not replaced that void at left back that Cohen rarely had. And the versatility of him was, left mid, centre mid, or left back. He had to go in that team. That's why I put him in there. But also, I loved him at Forest. I was so glad when we didn't just kick him to the curb. We said, okay, you're retiring now, but we're going to give you a coaching role as well. But so nice little happy ending, and Cohen had to go in that team. So that's why I put him there really, because there's other positions where he could have gone, but I wasn't taking any risks. On to the right midfield now, and again another one we agreed on, and that was Mikel Antonio. And what can you say, really? The one season he had with us was just, phenomenal. How he was, he scared defenders, pacey, powerful, athletic. No one could stop him, really. I feel like if things had gone all right with Stuart Pearce, things could have been different. We could have still had him, but where we finished in the league, he was always going to leave. He scored 13 goals from midfield, something like that. He was untouchable, unplayable on his day. You can see why the Premier League club went in for him, and he stayed there as well. So you see some Championship players go to the Premier League after having a good season in the Championship. Doesn't work out for him, and then they end up getting loaned back out. But he had to be patient for his time at West Ham, and he's had a few injuries, but he still can do a job for him on his day. He got called up to the England squad as well, which how many Forest players since they played for Forest have gone on to play for England, or even called up for the squad. So again, I think we've had some good right midfielders. Lolly would have been, he's my favourite player at this current moment in time, but you had to pick Antonio. Moving on to now the first centre middle, the CDM, whichever way you want to look at it, and I've gone for Paul McKenna. And you all agree with me on that one as well. I think I picked Paul McKenna just for the sheer factor as it took so long for us to replace him. We've had it this season with Ben Watson now, kind of like the McKenna-esque role, the older, wiser head in the midfield who can pass. He's not afraid to get stuck in. But McKenna for that team, he was the midfield anchor. He made sure, he dictated play in midfield. He popped up with a crucial goal as well. It was I can't remember if I've mentioned it or not before. Was it the Leicester game we needed to win the 10-11 season? And I mean, it wasn't. The keeper should have saved it, but he still scored. He was in that position to get the goal, and gave us a vital 3 points, instead of the 1. So, but I just think it was we took so long to replace him. We had Cole back. Unfortunately, we couldn't get him on a permanent. Moosey was in there as well, but McKenna was always normally preferred. So he has to go in there for me. I think again for the same reason as Cohen and a few others I've mentioned, Gunter as well. We've not replaced him apart from the season when Ben Watson did all right. I say done all right. I'm just waffling at the minute, but since Ben Watson this season has played fantastic. He stepped up for that McKenna role, and again when Watson goes, it's going to be hard to replace him. But we all agreed on that one. The second midfielder or the attacking midfielder, whichever way you want to look at it, we did have difference in opinions on this one, but for me this was probably the hardest choice in the list. You all picked Radi Majewski, which no shame in doing so, but I had to pick Henry Lansbury for me. I picked Lansbury because we took him from Arsenal, which it was no mean feat really, taking a youngster from Arsenal. People obviously think they're going to do go on to bigger and better things, which Lansbury kind of did, but he just brought a lot to the team. I think as he matured into the role, the first season he wasn't that great. I think it took him till when we beat Huddersfield 6-1 to get his first goal for the club. I might be wrong on that one, but I think after he got that first goal, that was it. The monkey was off his back, and now he could kick on. He took over the captaincy and led to some influential performances. At the Barnsley game where he scored a hat trick, he left in not on good terms. If he'd have done a Antonio and not forced his way out, or a few other players, I can't think of none come to mind really, but he'd not forced his way out. I think it was Lolly, and when Villa put a bid in, we rejected it. He didn't throw his toys out of the pram. He's got on with it. It looked like he was going to stay with us for a while. Is it Burnley were interested for a while, but again, Premier League clubs aren't interested in you if you're not doing nothing for your club in the Championship. It didn't work out for him at Villa, which some people might say the grass isn't always greener, but for Forest he was great. He was a good captain at the time. Stepped up with some crucial goals, important performances. Just wasn't too sure about some of his haircuts, to be fair, but that's a story for another day. But yeah, it had to go in there. Unfortunately, I did love Majewski. I think just because he tailed off the 09-10 season, he was terrific. That's why we signed him permanently. But after that, he didn't really match them performances. There was a few, performances here and there, like the Huddersfield game where he got the hat trick. They only got the hat trick at Crystal Palace, and that's why he ended up going on loan and then eventually leaving, which was a shame because I love Majewski at Forest, but I think for the bigger picture, that's why I had to pick Lansbury. Shout out to Lewis McGugan as well. For me, I was torn between Lansbury and McGugan, but I think just because McGugan had that one good season and then he may do much in the other campaigns, the playoff season, against Blackpool. In the end, he wasn't really, as influential as Majewski, who was playing, and in the end, it kind of went south for Lewis McGugan. I think as well after the season we lost to Swansea and McLaren come in, he was still a good player. He still popped up with some goals, but he wasn't. He looked to shadow his player, and obviously I know he struggled with. If you watch Paul McKenna's Under the Kosh podcast, he said he struggled with weight issues. He looked to try and get away with it, and it's a shame because he was a really top talent. It's a shame that his career's fizzled out at the minute. I think just because Lansbury maintained that, performance consistently, that's why I picked him over McGugan, but it was such a hard choice. This one wasn't such a hard choice, and everyone agreed with me, and I'm glad you did. I would hope you did, because the 4 people I put on, I think none of them come close to this man. That's Andy Reid. Andy Reid was, what else can you say about him? When he come back to the club, he wasn't in the greatest shape. Everyone always mocked him for being a bit overweight, but he just transformed himself. Lost a few pounds, but even though he didn't need to lose that left foot, he had a wand for left foot. No matter how much weight he lost, it doesn't matter. No matter how much weight he put on, he had that left foot, and he could just unlock defences with that. Some of the goals he scored as well. Free kick against Wigan comes to mind. I think Forest put on their social media the other day their goal of the day. The goal against Watford, he drilled it into the top corner. But yeah, he was terrific. It was such a shame that he didn't get to say a proper goodbye. I think it was the Derby game in the Stuart Pearce era when he come in. He got injured. He got injured that season. I believe it was against Derby. I might be wrong. But then he didn't play again. It was such a shame because, another club legend really. He started his career off, went round, did the rounds in the Premier League, but for him to come back and help us out really, and really probably the shining light of the McLaren era. Bringing Andy Reid back. I think because as soon as he would have got the call saying Forest want you back, he jumped at the chance. So I think we all agreed on that. I think the other ones were actually surprised. Ben Osborne didn't get a vote. I think it was between Reid, Osborne, Tyson and Anderson. I was surprised when they got more votes than Ben Osborne, but if people were just taking the mick then. But Reid, one that Reid got matters. I think if Tyson had won ahead of Reid, I think there would have been some suspect going on there. And now we move on to the 2 forwards. So again, there's going to be a few differentiating opinions on this one. One of the forwards we did pick that we both agreed on, and the other one I was a bit on the fence about. Again, it was such a hard decision. Probably the 2 hardest decisions was the forward pick and between Lansbury and McGugan. But I'll go with the one we agreed for first, and that was Rob Earnshaw. What can you say about Erner? He was terrific for us, terrific servant. And when we bought him in, we bought him from Derby. I bet Derby were thinking, nearly 3 million for a striker who scored 1 goal for us last season. We're having a laugh. We have Forest pants down here, and they're all ready to laugh at us down the A52. But they weren't laughing for long, was they? Scored some crucial goals that season. We stayed up. And that playoff season, he just kicked on, didn't he? It's unfortunate it ended how it did. I think, again, having the striker he was, he scored goals in the Premier League, having that experience, put him in, would have been invaluable. It got us really back on terms in the playoffs against Blackpool before obviously it all fell apart. And I think, no matter, even if he'd have scored 2 goals in his career, it would have been the... or 3 actually, the 2 in the 5-2 win against Derby and the one at Pride Park to give us the double, then I don't think, he still would have been a club legend. But he was anyway, and how he didn't start that semi-final against Swansea, I'll never know. I think if I ever meet Billy Davis, if I ever come across his path, I will say to him, why did you not start him? You brought him on with, I think I had a look the other day, with 12 minutes to go. Straight off the bench he scored, and he nearly got us the equaliser. It just made you think, even 8 years on down the line, you're like thinking, what if? But Ernie had to go in there just for his, the goals he scored for us. He was never gonna, I think he was ever gonna miss out. I don't think we've had a striker since probably Britt and Lewis Grabban, and they're the 2 that we're going to talk about now. So, yeah, this was a really hard one for me. So, you lot picked Lewis Grabban for the Team of the Decade to complete. The fans voted Team of the Decade, and I picked Britt Assombalonga to complete mine. And I don't know why. I just feel that Britt did more for us at the minute. I think I love Britt for the 2 goals against Ipswich that kept us up. Coming back from that injury, still and doing the business for us to keep us up. And I think that just shaded it for me. I know Graben's goals have obviously helped us massively. You know, I don't know where we'd be without Lewis Graben's goals this season. But I think because Britt got the goals against Ipswich, you know, the goals in the Championship that kept us up really. You know, if we didn't have him that season, we would have been screwed. We probably would have been, would have definitely been playing League One football the season after. But just come back from that horrendous injury, you know, club record signing, it was always a risk, you know, because you can easily bang them in League One and, you know, lower divisions again. I was talking about it with was it Antonio? It's easier to say like, oh, we can buy you for that money, but if you don't make the step up and you felt, I'm not even having a dig at Derby here, but Jack Marriott, you know, he scored bags of goals for Peterborough, and he's not really scored that many goals for Derby. Wrong. So Britt hit the ground running, you know. The Derby goal at home, Stuart Pearce's first game, the noise at the City ground was unreal. The goal to get us on terms in that 1-1 draw, the 2-1 win, to make it 1-1, again, phenomenal. Not saying I don't like Graben, I do love Graben. It was always, again, such a hard one to do, but for me, Britt does shades it just. It was probably, I feel disrespectful leaving Graben out, but I know what he's done. And I think, again, give it a year, and if we're in the Premier League and Graben's contributed to that, he might just overshadow Britt. But at the minute, I'm gonna stick with Britt Sombolonga. So yeah, that's my team of the decade compared to yours. I'm glad that we had a few difference in opinions, because obviously, if everyone all agreed, then I think football and debates would all be boring. I hope you accepted some of my choices. You know why I picked them players over the ones that you voted for. I think all in all, it was probably nearly a similar team, but you know, I agreed with all your votes really, apart from probably the Majewski one. I think for me, I would have put McGugan in there instead. I wouldn't have put Majewski in. But other than that, I agreed with, you know, understand why the player that I would have probably put second, you put first, if that makes sense. But I appreciate, you know, everyone's opinion and for voting. You know, if you've not voted this video, it would have still been happening, but I wouldn't have been able to really debate off anyone. You know, say like, okay, I've picked Lee Camp. I would put him towards Samba, but you know, people might think De Vries was better or Darlow, etc. So thanks for all for voting. I really appreciate it. Hopefully, in the coming weeks, coming months, I'm going to do a few more polls you can get involved in. If you don't know how, and you're not involved yet on Twitter, like I say, I'll leave the links in the description. But thanks for watching again, guys, while listening. I appreciate the support, and of course, hopefully this is filling a little bit of void left while Forest aren't on. But if you enjoyed it, like I say, just give us a like, share and subscribe, tell your mates. And hopefully, you know, these videos will become more frequent and more enjoyable if you're not already enjoying them already. I appreciate any feedback. Just give us a comment on YouTube in the comments below, or DM me on Instagram and Twitter. I always appreciate, you know, feedback that's, you know, constructive criticism, I think the right words for it. You know, I appreciate any, you know, bit of feedback that can make this channel better. But thanks for listening, guys, and hopefully you did enjoy this video again. It's more, you know, bit to fill the void, bit of running out of ideas really sometimes. You're talking about, you can't really talk about nothing because nothing's really happening. Can't really cover the Forest training session, but I don't know what went off in the training session. It'd be a bit boring really, wouldn't it? So hopefully this is a bit of light-hearted fun and you all do like it and you're all enjoying the content I'm producing. If you do have any suggestions, again, DM me on Twitter, comment on Instagram, just let me know what you'd like to see, and hopefully I can get them sorted for you. But thanks for listening, guys. Hopefully you stay safe, and hopefully more with each video I make, the step closer we're getting to see Forest back on the pitch again. Stay safe, guys, and I'll talk to you again soon.